Without trust, even the best relationships fall flat. It's not a nice to have, it's everything. Hi friends, I'm Shannon, your Barefoot Librarian. After years of diving deep into research, earning a master's degree in holistic education, and working as a librarian and teacher, one truth kept flashing like a neon sign. If trust isn't strong, no amount of communication hacks or connection tips will fix the cracks. That's exactly why we're walking through Trust by Dr. Henry Cloud, a must-read for anyone working to rebuild trust in personal or professional relationships. This is part 2 of our deep dive. If you missed part 1, where we covered the 5 essential building blocks of trust, you'll find that linked below. Today, we're moving forward. How to grow real trust, repair it when it's broken, and build relationships that actually last. Section 3, Growing in Trust. Chapter 9, Building your trust muscle. Trust isn't just something we stumble into, it's something we build, like strengthening a muscle. Dr. Henry Cloud uses a brilliant example of trust. When automobiles roll off the factory line, some come out in perfect working order, while others need repairs right away. Trust works the same way. Some people grow up with healthy, reliable trust installed early on. Others didn't get that, and their trust muscles are weak or even damaged. From the moment we're born, we're wired with the capacity for trust. Babies naturally reach out instinctively, relying on their caregivers. But whether that trust grows strong or withers depends entirely on the care and consistency they experience. Sadly, not everyone got the nurturing environment they needed to fully develop their trust muscles. But here's the good news. Trust can always be cultivated. Whether you're starting from scratch or rebuilding after hurt, the process is the same. Like any muscle, trust grows through daily use. Small acts of honesty, reliability, empathy, and repair. Every time you show up when you say you will, own your mistakes, or handle someone else's heart with care, you're strengthening that muscle. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's never about perfection, but consistency builds something sturdy over time. And here's where it gets personal. Sometimes we're quick to blame others for broken trust without realizing that we might be part of the problem. If fear, past wounds, or control issues are steering our actions, we can unknowingly sabotage even the best opportunities in relationships. Dr. Cloud tells the story of Sean, a man who seemed to have it all: a thriving business, a trusted best friend as his business partner, and an incredible deal on the table. But when it came time to move forward, Sean froze. He refused to sign, paralyzed by an overwhelming fear that he'd be controlled or trapped. The root of it? Deep scars of a controlling father. Sean's inability to trust didn't just cost him the deal, it cost him his business and his closest friendship. It's a sobering reminder. Trust issues left unexamined can quickly wreck your life. The good news is, once you recognize the patterns, you can start to change them. Whether you're someone who came off the assembly line with healthy trust or someone who's had to patch it up along the way, the same principle applies. You can grow your trust muscle stronger, one honest, brave choice at a time. Breaking your trust barriers, part 1. Even if you're working hard to grow your trust muscle, you might feel stuck sometimes. That's because real trust doesn't just depend on what you do, it also depends on what's happened to you. Trust barriers usually come from past pain. Maybe someone you depended on hurt you. Maybe someone you trusted controlled or abandoned you. And even though you've grown and changed, those old wounds can still whisper,
"It's not safe to trust."
I'll be honest, this hit close to home for me. When Wes and I got married, one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was how to actually depend on someone else. I was used to being
Strong, independent, and self-sufficient.
letting someone in, fully trusting them, felt vulnerable and scary in ways I didn't expect. Fear of being controlled or disappointed kept me walled off, even when there was no real threat. Dr. Cloud explains that when trust issues run deep, they often tie back to attachment styles we formed early in life. Secure attachment, feeling safe to trust, depend, and be depended on. Anxious attachment, clinging tightly and fearing abandonment at every turn. Avoidant attachment, pulling away, fearing control or entrapment. If you're curious to learn more about attachment styles and how they impact adult relationships, I have a whole separate series on that linked below if you want to dig deeper. The important thing to know right now is this. Your trust barriers are not character flaws. They're injuries. And like any injury, they can and need to be acknowledged, treated, and healed. But healing can only happen when you're willing to name the fear honestly.
Fear of being controlled, fear of being disappointed, fear of losing yourself in a relationship.
Those fears are real. But if they stay unchallenged, they'll quietly sabotage the very connections you're longing for. The good news? You can start small. Awareness is the first step toward freedom. Breaking your trust barriers, part 2. If fear builds walls, healing trust means learning how to tear them down brick by brick. Dr. Cloud reminds us that trust barriers don't just come from what others have done to us. Sometimes the walls are built from our own fears. Fear of imperfection and shame.
If they see the real me, they'll leave.
Fear rooted in past trauma.
I can't afford to let my guard down.
Fear of inequality.
What if they don't value me as much as I value them?
Or fear of ourselves.
What if I'm the one who ruins everything?
Even when those fears are only in our heads, like the spotlight effect that makes us feel more judged than we really are, they can still create very real dynamics that strain our relationships. And let's be honest, sometimes old wounds show up in new relationships, whether we want them to or not. I'll go first. Before I met Wes, I came out of a very controlling relationship. In the early days of our marriage, there were moments when old fears flared up without warning. If Wes made a simple suggestion or asked a basic question, I could feel myself getting defensive. Not because of him, but because of old echoes from the past. More than once, he had to gently say, "Hey, I'm not your ex. I'm on your side." Those moments were humbling, but they were also very healing. Every time I chose to trust him, it strengthened something inside me that fear had once broken. Healing trust issues is a lot like fixing a broken car axle. Imagine someone saying,
Yeah, the axle's been cracked for about 2 years, but the car's just been sitting in the garage, so it's fine.
well, no, it's still broken, and it will stay broken unless you address it. Ignoring old trust injuries doesn't make them go away. If anything, they quietly begin to affect everything. How you love, how you communicate, how you show up in the relationships that matter most to you. But here's the empowering part. You can fix it. It starts by getting honest about the fear. What are you really afraid of?
Being controlled, being abandoned, being exposed as not enough.
Naming the fear takes away some of its power. Then it means challenging old stories. Is the fear you're feeling about this person or about a wound from someone else? Learning to tell the difference between past pain and present reality is a game changer. From there, it's about seeking repair, not perfection. Even in healthy relationships, things will go wrong. But what matters isn't that everything is perfect, it's that both people are willing to show up, apologize, and rebuild when trust gets strained. Boundaries also play a crucial role. Trust doesn't mean tolerating bad behavior. Healthy boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges that protect and nurture connection. And sometimes breaking trust barriers means reaching out for help, whether through counseling, wise mentorship, or personal growth work. Trust isn't about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about feeling the fear and still choosing growth, vulnerability, and connection. You're not broken because you struggle with trust. You're human. And you are absolutely capable of healing. Section 4, the model for repairing trust. Chapter 12, it's a process. Learning to trust again is just that, a process. Dr. Cloud reminds us that trust doesn't always work out the way we hope. Sometimes we get duped, scammed, cheated on, betrayed, or disappointed in painful ways. Repairing trust isn't about blindly forgiving and handing over trust again. It's about open-eyed, informed trust based on solid, objective criteria. You need real reasons to trust again. Certain factors must be present before extending that trust. Wes and I experienced this firsthand when we bought our duplex. Our very first tenant was a nightmare. She didn't pay rent, had loud, drunken screaming matches with her daughter at all hours of the night, disturbed the neighbors, and we were stuck covering her water, utilities, and Wi-Fi bills because shutting them off would have been considered unlawful eviction in our state. We felt duped, trapped, And honestly, I didn't even want to come home. After finally getting her out, part of me just wanted to sell the whole place to avoid ever having to trust another tenant again. It would have been easy to let fear call the shots. But instead, we got wiser. We raised our standards. Now our tenant criteria are crystal clear and much stricter. We're not afraid to rent again because this time we're trusting with eyes wide open. It's not about becoming cynical or jaded. It's about learning, growing, and trusting smarter. Step 1, heal from what happened to you. Before you can rebuild trust, whether with someone else or even within yourself, you have to heal from what happened. You can't fix what you haven't fully processed emotionally. If you skip this step and rush into trusting again, you're likely setting yourself up for more setbacks and pain. Wounds that aren't healed don't just disappear. They tend to bleed into future relationships, creating unnecessary fear, distance, and confusion. Dr. Cloud stresses that healing is non-negotiable if you want to build trust on solid ground. Take intentional time to heal. Journal about what happened. Talk with a trusted friend, mentor, or therapist. Reflect on the patterns and lessons without judgment. Healing isn't about blaming yourself. It's about giving yourself the care you deserve so you can move forward wiser, stronger, and more open-hearted. Step 2. Once you've taken the time to heal, the next step is moving beyond the anger and revenge and toward forgiveness. Let's be clear. Forgiveness isn't about pretending the hurt didn't happen or giving someone a free pass. It's about refusing to let their wrongdoing poison your future. When you stay stuck in anger, resentment, bitterness, or thoughts of revenge, it doesn't just damage your emotions, it damages your mental health, your relationships, and even your body. Studies show that forgiveness improves emotional well-being, reduces rumination, lowers depression and anxiety, supports recovery from trauma and addiction, reduces chronic stress, lowers blood pressure and cholesterol, strengthens your immune system, decreases pain, and even lengthens your life. It literally frees you from the inside out. But don't rush forgiveness. First, feel your anger. Scripture even says,
Be angry and do not sin. Ephesians 4:26.
Anger is not bad. It's a protest emotion signaling that something was wrong and needs to be acknowledged. Even God feels anger at injustice. The key is handling it in a way that doesn't harm yourself or others. Healthy anger expressed appropriately is a vital part of healing. After that anger has been processed, not suppressed, you can choose forgiveness. And forgiveness does not mean trust. It doesn't mean friendship. It doesn't mean you ever have to speak to the other person again. Forgiveness simply means you cancel the debt they owe you because they wronged you, and you choose to stop carrying it. You let go not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. It's like choosing to carry around a bunch of rocks in your bag rather than just unloading them. Refusing to let them go isn't hurting the other person. It just means you're carrying those heavy rocks around and aren't free from that burden. But if you throw the rocks out of your bag, then you get to walk free without carrying them in the future. Forgiveness is how you reclaim your future from what was done to you. The person already took part of your past. Don't give them your future too. You may have been hurt deeply, but with forgiveness, you refuse to stay bound to the injury, even when people don't deserve it, even when they don't apologize. Forgiveness is the way you break free and begin building something new. Step 3, ponder what you really want. When trust has been broken, it's important to take time to reflect on what you truly want moving forward. This isn't just about the person who wronged you, it's about you, your values, and your vision for the future.
Should you stay or should you go?
This question extends far beyond romantic relationships. It can apply to any area where trust has been violated. For example, if you're facing a betrayal in marriage, you might wonder if reconciliation is possible. Is there enough love, respect, and faith to rebuild what was lost? Or is it time to let go? How will that decision affect your children, your community, and your own well-being? In situations where trust has been broken at work, you may feel torn between the desire to leave and the need to support your family. Should you stay in the company, or is the toll on your heart, mind, and soul too great to continue? Similarly, what do you do when church leadership has betrayed you, yet leaving may impact your family or your community? Can you forgive? And if so, how? The same goes for close friendships or family members who've hurt you. What would reconciling with them look like? Is it even possible to restore the relationship? And who else is affected by your decision? Your kids, your extended family, your larger network. All these factors make the decision more complex than simply
forgive and move on.
It's about weighing everything, considering the long-term effects, and being honest with yourself about what's truly worth fighting for. Ask yourself these questions. What would reconciliation look like in this situation? Is rebuilding trust possible, or have things changed so much that it's just time to let go? Is there enough to salvage, and are the relationships worth investing in? Are you able to see the bigger picture, or are you still clouded by pain and betrayal? What would it take for you to move forward, either with or without this person in your life? Taking time to reflect on these questions without rushing to conclusions will give you the clarity to make decisions that align with your core values in time. Your ability to move forward with peace depends on taking a step back and considering the bigger picture of your life, your relationships, and your well-being. Step 4, figure out if reconciliation is available. Forgiveness is always something to do for your own freedom, but reconciliation is a different matter. It's not always possible or even advisable. Reconciliation requires both people to engage honestly, humbly, and responsibly. It means assessing who you're really dealing with. Are they taking responsibility for what they did? Do they recognize how wrong it was? Do they understand the consequences their actions caused and how it hurt you or others? Are they truly sorry, showing remorse and repentance, not just in words, but also in actions? Are they transparent, giving you full access to the truth without hiding, minimizing, or twisting the facts? If the answer to these questions is yes, reconciliation might be possible. But even then, it's important to remember, reconciliation is not the same thing as trust. Reconciliation simply means that you are no longer hostile toward each other. You're neutral or civil, but you're not yet rebuilding deep trust. Think about how some ex-spouses work toward a peaceful relationship for the sake of their children. The hostility is gone, but the deep trust still isn't there. It's important to make that distinction clearly. On the other hand, if you are met with denial, lying, gaslighting, blame shifting, minimizing, rationalizing, invalidating your feelings, projecting, or expecting you to take responsibility for what they did, then reconciliation is not possible. You cannot reconcile with someone who refuses to own their actions or acknowledge the harm they caused. From a biblical perspective, Scripture outlines 3 types of people you could be dealing with. First, the wise, people who welcome correction, own their mistakes, and are open to learning and growth. These people make reconciliation possible, although trust will still take time to rebuild. Second, the foolish, or mockers, people who resist correction, make excuses, blame others, or refuse to see their own role in the harm. Trying to reconcile with fools often leads to repeated hurt and frustration. The Bible warns to be cautious with fools, Proverbs 9, 7, and 8, and Proverbs 26, 11. Third, evildoers, people who are not just foolish, but actively seeking to harm others. These individuals are malicious, manipulative, and dangerous. The Bible makes it clear, you should not just be cautious around evildoers, you should flee from them. Psalm 37, 9 and 10, and 2 Timothy 3, 1-5. Trying to reconcile with someone who is bent on doing harm is not only unwise, it's unsafe. It's also important to reflect on yourself during this process. Not to blame yourself for what someone else chose to do, but to humbly acknowledge any ways you can grow in discernment. After all, the pain we experience can be a powerful teacher if we let it be. For example, think back to our experience with our first tenant when we bought our duplex. She ended up causing chaos, refusing to pay rent, disturbing the neighbors, and likely engaging in substance abuse on our property. While we thought we were being compassionate by giving someone in a rough spot a place to live, looking back, there were warning signs galore.
Chronic lateness, disorganization, endless tales of woe.
We weren't responsible for her poor choices, but had we vetted more thoroughly and trusted our gut, we could have avoided a lot of heartache. We made a mistake by trusting a fool, and we learned from it. Now we're wiser. We know the signs to look for, and we aren't afraid to walk away when we see them. Pain taught us wisdom. Bottom line, reconciliation is only possible with people who are willing to be honest, responsible, and humble. You must discern whether you are dealing with a wise person, a fool, or an evildoer, and respond accordingly without guilt. Eyes wide open, wisdom leading the way. Steps 5 and 6, assess trustworthiness. Forgiveness can and should be granted freely, but trust must be earned, and re-earning trust takes time, consistency, and real change. Trustworthiness isn't gauged by promises or apologies, it's proven by actions over time. When you're assessing whether someone can be trusted again, it's crucial to look for these markers. Understanding. Does someone truly get how their actions affected you? Are they able to empathize with your pain without becoming defensive or minimizing what happened? Are they seeking to understand your experience and not just explain theirs? Motive. Is their intention genuinely for you and your welfare and healing? Or are they only interested in relieving their own guilt or sweeping things under the rug? True repentance seeks the other person's good. Ability. Do they have the ability to actually deliver on the trust you're being asked to extend? Are they willing to set up safeguards, make sacrifices, and follow through even when it's inconvenient for them? Character. Have they developed the moral strength, self-control, and humility necessary to meet the demands of a trusting relationship? This isn't about being perfect. It's about being trustworthy in the imperfections. And finally, track record. Over time, are they building a new consistent track record of trustworthiness? Is there evidence of real change that you and others can see, not just words? Dr. Henry Cloud illustrates this model through the story of Bella and Drew, a couple who faced devastating betrayal, but ultimately built a stronger marriage than they ever thought possible. Bella was shattered to discover that her husband Drew had been leading a double life for half a decade, carrying on an affair with a coworker who was also a close family friend. It could have been the end of everything, but Drew didn't just apologize. He radically changed. He checked himself into an inpatient center for sex addiction recovery. He cut off all communications with the other woman completely and immediately. For decades now, he has attended a 90-minute call every Monday for ongoing accountability and continues to meet weekly with his sponsor. On top of that, he maintains full transparency with Bella about his finances, whereabouts, and decisions. He even brings in outside accountability for any potentially compromising situations. More importantly, Drew listened to Bella's pain without defensiveness. He sought to understand, not defend himself. He made it his mission to prove by his actions that he is a different man. Today, decades later, they say their marriage is better than ever. But that didn't happen overnight. It was a long, hard road, and it took years of consistent effort to rebuild that trust. Sadly, not every story ends this way. Some people never do the work. Some continue blaming, excusing, or minimizing. In those cases, trusting again might not be wise or even possible. In summary, the path looks like this. Heal from what happened. Move beyond anger and revenge and turn toward forgiveness for your own healing. Ponder what you really want. Figure out if reconciliation is available. Determine if trust is an option by watching for understanding, motive, ability, character, and track record. How to get help and support. Rebuilding trust isn't something that can be done alone. As much as books can offer insight, they won't replace the accountability and support that a proven system and outside professionals provide. Whether you're dealing with betrayal, addiction, or relationship issues, you need structured support with a track record of success. Trusted sources of support might look like therapy or counseling. Professionals can guide you through the emotional process of rebuilding trust, providing structured help for navigating through very difficult feelings. It could be support groups. Programs like Alcoholics Anonymous, AA, or similar groups offer accountability and proven recovery strategies that work because they're built on a strong foundation. It might be mentors and accountability partners. Trusted individuals who are committed to your growth can help keep you on track, ensuring you're not facing the difficult process alone. And structured programs. Programs with proven results, not just books or advice, will help you stay focused and work through the steps required to rebuild trust. Step 7, look for evidence of real change. Rebuilding trust is a slow and steady process, and it takes time to truly see if someone has changed. Look for clear signs of real change, not just a quick fix. First, the person needs to admit that they need help and take responsibility for what they did. It's important that they're not just saying the right things, but also showing up with a proven process for change, like therapy, support groups, or another structured approach. This isn't just about words, it's about actions. Do they have new skills and experiences that prove they're working on themselves? And are they motivated to keep improving even when things get tough? Support systems like accountability partners or professionals are key in keeping them on track, and you should be seeing some solid evidence of change by this point in the process. Transparency matters too. If secrecy was a part of the betrayal, full honesty is a non-negotiable. They also need to be willing to be questioned. If they get defensive or shut down, that's a red flag. When you start to trust again, take it slow. Small steps at first. Don't rush it, my friend. Trust is rebuilt with consistency over time, so be patient and watch for those small but steady signs that they really are changing. The temptation to jump back in fully can be strong, but it's the little things that build trust. It takes time, but it's worth it when the change is real. Section 5, moving forward. Chapters 20 and 21. How not to make the same mistakes again. When it comes to moving forward after betrayal or hurt, one of the most important things we can do is to identify the patterns in our past relationships that led to broken trust. Reflecting on these past experiences helps us recognize behaviors that are red flags so we don't repeat them in the future. Trust can be misplaced in the heart, mood, and soul, much like an infection spreads through the body. When we learn from past mistakes, we become less vulnerable to future mistrust, building a natural immunity to it. As kids, most people were taught not to talk to strangers, avoid dangerous situations, and to stay away from unhealthy people. But what if that equipment wasn't installed in childhood? If we were overly sheltered or raised in an environment with unhealthy family dynamics, we might have missed out on learning what's acceptable behavior and what's not. Without a clear understanding of boundaries, we can easily be deceived or manipulated, not just by others, but by our own misperceptions. This can often be compounded when we've experienced gaslighting in the past and have learned to second-guess our own perceptions. Trusting ourselves again after that takes time, but we can break the cycle by recognizing those patterns and adjusting accordingly. One key to preventing future trust violations is learning how to set boundaries and enforce them. If we don't protect ourselves, we remain vulnerable. Just like the immune system has defenses to keep out harmful invaders, we need emotional boundaries to guard our hearts. Dr. Cloud uses the analogy of getting sick frequently when traveling for work, only to stop getting sick once his body has built up a defense. Similarly, as we grow and learn from past experiences, we become wiser and better equipped to handle difficult situations. Additionally, it's important to surround ourselves with a supportive tribe. People who help us set healthy boundaries and act as markers, guiding us when we're unsure. A tribe provides encouragement, accountability, and fight we need to stay on the right path, especially when it feels tempting to return to unhealthy dynamics. Trust can grow, but only when we have the proper support to help us protect it as it does. By reflecting on past mistakes, identifying patterns, setting boundaries, and leaning on trusted support systems, we can move forward with greater wisdom and resilience, making sure not to repeat the same mistakes again. This is a process, but each step forward brings more healing and strength for the next chapter. As we wrap up this post, I encourage you to take the next step in growing your own trust muscle. Reflect on the insights you've gained and apply them in your own relationships. Building and repairing trust takes time, patience, and intentional effort, but it's one of the most rewarding things you can do for yourself and those you care about. I'd love to hear about your trust journey. How have you worked on building, repairing, or maintaining trust in your relationships? What lessons have you learned along the way? Share your story in the comments below or shoot me an email. I'm cheering you on. And as always, the book will be linked below if you would like to dig deeper and read along. Remember, trust is an ongoing process. Rebuilding it can be tough, but the effort is absolutely worth it. Keep moving forward, stay committed to the process, and know that the journey towards stronger, healthier trust is one worth taking. That's all for now. Take care, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.